Hey guys, welcome to Reform Nerd. Today we're going to continue to explore the character Frieza. Now, for those of you that may or may not know, one of the things that we find out about Goku in the anime is that he is an orphan, and he actually grew up with his adoptive grandfather, Gohan. Now, the reason that Goku is an orphan is because of this guy. Now, Frieza not only kills Goku's father, but he blows up the entire planet that Goku's race is from, essentially wiping out almost the entire Saiyan race. Why? Well, that's what we're going to be looking at today. Now, before we continue, I want us to take a look at two different clips. So here's the first one.
But without the Saiyans, our fighting force would be drastically reduced, almost by half.
My troops will still be able to get by. These barbarians pretend to be submissive, but they're dangerous. They could bare their fangs against us at any time. They are, after all, a species completely comprised of warriors. It's always best to put a sleeping beast down before it can be awakened.
Now you heard it from Frieza's mouth. The reason why he chose to try to end the Saiyan race was because their number was growing too big. Not only that, but they were a race of warriors. And I mean, they still are a race of warriors because we do have some Saiyans still left in the anime. Now I want us to take a look at this other clip.
We worked so hard for him. We did everything he asked of us and more. He took me from my father when I was just a little boy. He made me do whatever he wanted and said he would kill my father if I didn't. He was scared of us. Scared that a Super Saiyan would be born someday and rise up to overthrow him.
A touching story.
Now, the claim here from Vegeta before he dies is that the reason why Frieza chose to try to end the Saiyan race is because he feared the legend of the Super Saiyan. And for those of you that don't know, the Super Saiyan was pretty much this ultra super Saiyan that would come every 1,000 years, and this legend was supposed to be the most powerful being in the entire universe. And Vegeta, what he is saying here is that Frieza feared this legend, and this is why he wanted to end the entire Saiyan race, so that legacy or that legend wouldn't come to pass. Now, the reason why Frieza destroys the Saiyans reminds me of the same reasons why the Pharaoh that we learned from in Exodus tried to subdue the Israelites. And historians believe that the Pharaoh that is referred to in the Bible was King Ramses II. Now, we learn a few things about the fears that King Ramses had when it came to the Israelites. One of the first things that we learn about the Israelites is that they're very fruitful. I mean, they're having tons of babies. So what happens is that Pharaoh catches a glimpse of this, he becomes aware of this, and he becomes afraid because they're growing in great numbers and they're growing in strength. So he is worried that there will be a time where an enemy nation would rise up against Egypt, and what the Israelites would do is that they would side with them and ultimately come back and try to destroy them. So one of the things that Pharaoh decides to do in order to subdue the Israelites is that he assigns taskmasters that will afflict them with hard labor, building different structures within Egypt. But what we're told is that the harsher that they're treated, the more that they're multiplying, the more babies that they're having, right? So they continue to make the lives of the Israelites more difficult, but yet they continue to grow in numbers. And this actually makes me think of today. And I think that the approach the Pharaoh had was the wrong one here. Because if today is any indication of how humans behave, I think that he would have done better by giving them more and providing better lives for them, and that would have prompted them to have less babies. Now, I say this because in today's day and age, you know, we live better lives than we've ever had before, and people are opting to have maybe 1 or 2 children, whereas when it comes to where my dad, for example, was growing up, he is one of 7 and my mom is one of 5. So back then they had a lot less resources, and yet they had more babies. But now that we are better off, we're choosing to have less babies because we're trying to, in a way, keep or maintain a certain lifestyle that we've become accustomed to having. Now, one of the craziest things about Pharaoh is that he sees that putting labor upon the Israelites is not working. So what he decides to do is that he tells the maidservants that when they're delivering babies, any males that are coming out, he's telling them to kill them. Now, fortunately enough, a lot of the maidservants, a lot of these women that were delivering babies were fearful of God and chose not to do that. But it goes to show the extent of what this Pharaoh was willing to go through in order to maintain his power. What this motivation boils down to for both Frieza and for the Pharaoh is their fear of losing power. They feared that someone at some point would come and take that power away. So the fear of losing this power that they had pushed them to do unspeakable things like we've just talked about. They essentially took their reasoning in keeping this power in order to justify their behaviors in hurting other people. Unfortunately, we also see a lot of this today. We see so many people today that are being marginalized because there are certain people in the power seat, right? Certain people with power that want to maintain this power, and in order to do so, they don't care who they hurt in the process. Now, the good news about all of this is that Frieza's time came, and it came with Goku, right? Pharaoh's time came as well, and that time came with Moses. And to those of us today that are feeling oppressed, that are feeling marginalized, we also have hope as well. Because as we read in Romans chapter 12, verses 19, we see that vengeance belongs to the Lord. So there is a promise from God that ultimately He will have the last laugh. And those of us that have been marginalized and continue to be marginalized don't have to worry, because ultimately God is going to have our backs, and He is going to exact a righteous vengeance on all of those that have marginalized us in the past. Hey, it was a lot of fun to put this together for you guys. I had a lot of fun looking at the similarities between Frieza and Pharaoh, and I hope that you guys learned something today. I hope that it was a blessing to you. If you like this content, I am gonna put up a couple of other videos here that you can check out if you want to. If you don't, that's fine too, but please make sure to share, like, and subscribe. And as always, remember, we must persevere.